as Randy Joe Sa'a reports from Yaoundé.
The attack is one of the most daring in recent weeks. Ambazonia fighters were apparently expecting the arrival of troops in Isu, a farming and grazing community 100 kilometers from the northwest regional capital Bamenda. Residents told the BBC that a gun battle ensued, lasting well over 6 hours and forcing villagers to hide indoors or flee into bushes. Several soldiers were said to have been killed and others wounded. Heavy casualties were also recorded on the Ambazonia side, with reports of stray bullets hitting civilians. Inhabitants of Isu sounded terrified as they spoke with the BBC.
They wanted to take them by surprise. That's why they came in at 4 a.m. And then, those guys, maybe they were so alert.
This man says soldiers wanted to take the Amba boys by surprise. That is why they came in at about 4 a.m. But it looks like the Ambas were alert and were expecting the army, he says.
So when they were trying to run away towards Womb, they were ambushed at around before reaching Way.
The battle in Isu eventually ended with what seemed to be a tactical withdrawal by the soldiers. But another Amba unit ambushed the retreating troops in the road junction village of Way. The Amba boys, as the fighters are also known, have now posted pictures on social media displaying automatic machine guns harvested from the military. The government has not reacted to this latest fighting, but the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, said on the heels of the Isu attack that Ambazonia terrorists were being wiped out in the troubled regions. He advised those he called remnants to surrender to the nearest police stations. Meanwhile, other losses in the Isu incident includes the burning down of municipal council offices, including birth certificates, as well as the burning down of the district officer's vehicle. The Ambazonia leaders and followers are currently pursuing a civil disobedience operation to render the English-speaking territories ungovernable, and so force government to negotiate. But it is this same policy that is inflicting a devastating impact on the same people they are fighting for.
Randy Joe Sa'a in Yaoundé. Still about Cameroon, but this time it's the poetry from English-speaking Cameroonian writer Joyce Ashun-Tantang, whose new volume of poetry, Beautiful Fire, looks at the political strife in Cameroon and why she believes the only solution is a separate state for English speakers. Leslie Goff met up with Joyce Ashun-Tantang, who is a university professor in the United States, to talk about why, according to her, Anglophone writers lack the words to describe Cameroon's current political situation.
Anglophone Cameroon writing matters because a lot of people out there in the world do not know that a section of Cameroon is English speaking. So Anglophone writers have that obligation to carry our voices out into the world.
And several of these Anglophone writers have taken up this cause.
Yes, particularly the playwrights Bate Bisong, Bole Butake. It was a crusade for them. Their plays, especially in the 90s, made it very clear to people that Anglophones wanted equality.
Who gives you orders to treat us like dogs, officer? Now this is the moment of truth, the moment of your death and the moment of our liberation.
Look, if you kill me, your liberation will not last.
The moment of truth! The moment of truth! Oh! The lion is no more. The elephant has fallen.
That's militant stuff there.
Yes.
You're an academic, an author, you're a poet, and you've got a new collection called Beautiful Fire, which makes reference to the ongoing political situation in southern Cameroon.
Yes, and this first poem is titled Because We Are Poor. They rule, and we cannot talk. When we cry democracy, them go crazy and stuff our mouths with stolen ballots. Because we are poor. Because they made us poor, they woo us in our own homes, bringing kola nuts of their guilt. But woman does not live by kola nut alone, but every drop of ancestral blood. Because we have never been poor.
Now, that's a poem of yours, outspoken, militant. How are other writers tackling the subject of the election coming and just the general political conflict in the country?
In the 90s, when we had the other wave of Anglophone nationalism, writers they used metaphor, allegory to point out the Anglophone situation. Now we are overwhelmed with real terror, violence. The carnage is real. I think the writers are overwhelmed. Eke Inyang just had something today on Facebook, an environmental poet, but also very committed on what is happening on the ground. He has a poem today titled Violence, decrying the violence now going on. And so poets are grappling with the situation going on, but there are very few. What is happening right now has overwhelmed our imagination.
And that is Joyce, Professor Joyce Ashun Tantang, and she was speaking to Leslie Goff about the reasons why Anglophone writers in Cameroon need to write about the situation in their part of the country. Her new volume of poetry is called Beautiful Fire. If you want to join the conversation, please do hashtag Focus on Africa, and you can also hashtag me at BBC_Audrey Briggy. It's 17:30 GMT. Our top story, the Ugandan opposition MP and musician Bobi Wine has been charged with treason in connection with election violence. Earlier, he had been freed when military proceedings against him were abandoned. The BBC's Catherine Biaruhanga is in Kampala.
When Bobi Wine heard that news from the chairman of the court-martial that he was to be set free, he was overwhelmed with emotion. His eyes were red. It looked like he was crying. But just immediately behind him was Grace Akulo. She's in charge of the criminal intelligence department of the police. She was standing behind him, and immediately people realized that he was about to be arrested again.
Coming up after the world news, unpacking the latest on South Africa's land redistribution plans, and we hear from a victim of another form of sexual violence called stealthing.
BBC News. President Trump has talked about the possibility of impeachment, warning that it would result in severe economic damage to the United States. He told Fox News that the market would crash and everybody would become very poor. On Tuesday, the president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, pleaded guilty to breaking election campaign laws on Mr. Trump's orders. Police in Argentina have begun searching the home in Buenos Aires of the former president, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, as part of a major corruption investigation. The move came after the Senate approved a request by the high-profile anti-corruption judge, Claudio Bonadio. She denies any wrongdoing. Venezuelans trying to emigrate to Peru to flee the economic crisis at home are rushing to reach there before Saturday, when new rules kick in requiring them to valid passports. Until now, they've been allowed to enter Peru with just ID cards. A British-Iranian woman who's been detained in Iran for more than 2 years has been temporarily released. The family of Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe says she's been freed from jail in Tehran for 3 days. She was convicted of spying, a charge she denies. A new study shows China is among the top 5 arms exporters, selling modern and sophisticated weaponry around the world. The research by the International Institute for Strategic Studies found 7 major Chinese businesses were among the top 20 defense companies globally. The US has named an executive from the Ford Motor Company.
The focus on that part of the country. The Anglophone crisis in southwestern Cameroon is getting worse, and outside observers are beginning to notice. According to Amnesty International, alarm bells are ringing in the Congress over Cameroon. Cameroon's opposition leader, who will run for president in October's elections, has pointed the finger squarely at President Paul Biya for mounting bloodshed in that country's separatist crisis. Dozens of people have been killed, including at least 80 soldiers and police officers, and about 200,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. Now, the South African Communist Party here in South Africa has been communicating with their comrades from what they call the Abazonia region, and that's the name given to southern Cameroon, regarding these atrocities. As a consequence of these actions, we have now learned that their comrades are being threatened threatened. One of the SACP's members' wives were kidnapped earlier this month, and she was assaulted and held captive for a few hours. Well, for more on this, I am joined in the studio by Dr. Ebenezer Akangwa. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He is the leader of the Southern Cameroonian Defense Force. A very good welcome, Dr. Akangwa, and thank you for making the time to come into the studio. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Now, we received a letter from the South African Communist Party, which was signed by the second Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Shay Matlako, and it says that the political killings on South African, or rather political kidnappings on South African soil, and it is addressed to both the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, as well as the Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Lindiwe Sisulu. And the letter reads thus. It says, "Dear comrades, political kidnappings on South African soil. Kindly receive our warm and revolutionary greetings. The SACP has been interacting with comrades from the Ambazonia regarding human rights atrocities that are occurring in southern Cameroon. As a consequence of these interactions, the comrades concerned are now being threatened. In particular, the wife of one comrade, Mrs. Mandisa Portia Nomalanga Mzembe, a South African citizen, and they give the ID number, was kidnapped on the morning of Monday, the 6th of August 2018, assaulted and held captive for a few hours. During her period of captivity, a threatening phone call was made to her husband. Upon her release, he received a text stating that the kidnapping was just a warning and that he should stop his political activities or she will be killed. The safety of foreign nationals, including political refugees, in South Africa is paramount, and it is, of course, of grave concern when they are so easily kidnapped and some even murdered on our soil. We humbly request that the Ministry of Police prioritize the speedy resolution of the cases, and it was registered in Mondio, and we've got a case number and a registration number and the station and the details. And they also say we request that the Ministry of State Security please increase the monitoring of activities of foreign governments more tightly to prevent such occurrences. And then the letter ends off by saying we will appreciate feedback in this regard at your earliest convenience and preferably before the end of August 2018. Now, it's not yet at the end of August, but I do know from the South African Communist Party that they have received absolutely no correspondence from either the police minister or the Minister for Foreign Relations and International Cooperation. And of course, the reason why I'm reading this out is to give the link between South Africa and, of course, what is happening in southern Cameroon. But let's start with you, Doctor. Can you sketch for us what exactly is going on in Cameroon? Why are you in South Africa, and what is the solidarity that it is that you are seeking both from South Africa and the international community?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I want to thank the South African Communist Party. They have been very, very brave and helpful, not just to our cause for freedom. They have been very, very instrumental in most of the causes that is taking place within the continent of Africa. We expect such to also come from the African National Congress, but I can assure you that so far the ANC has not reacted the way we wanted them to do. It seems as if less than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken, that the apartheid regime was crushed. The ANC has forgotten so soon how the people of South Africa have suffered and how the rest of the world stood side by side them. In times of that struggle. I joined the ANC at the age of 15. I never knew I ever come to South Africa. I was suspended from school for anti-apartheid activities. And yet I've come to South Africa. I came to South Africa on the 28th of May to catch a check with the ANC. I can assure you that since I deposited that check, the Secretary General of the ANC has not gotten back to me. Were it not the South African Communist Party, I would have definitely thought that that was a bounce check. I am personally very, very disappointed, and that it is so soon for the ANC as a political party, as a movement, to forget how long it came through this particular path. I think that South Africa as a country and the ANC as a political party and a former revolutionary movement has that moral standing in the rest of the world to speak for the people of Ambazonia. So far, the ANC has not been doing its job, but I will keep knocking at their door, because when there were crises in South Africa, when our fellow brothers and sisters, fellow humans were being slaughtered by other humans, we stood side by side them, just as we stood side by side the people of Namibia. So we are not like begging the government or the African National Congress to come to our aid. We are saying that it is the moral obligation to do that. If the ANC doesn't do that, which other country in the world at this particular period in human history has that moral capability to do that? So it is troubling to me, it's mind-boggling, but I will keep knocking at that door. And thanks that we have friends at the SACP, and we also have friends within COSATU who are listening to us. Now, why am I in South Africa? As I said, I came to South Africa to cash a check. It is a check that I don't intend to return back to my people in Ambazonia without catching that check. It is a check that tells the people of South Africa and the African National Congress that as a movement that have bleeded, that have suffered so much for their own struggle, they stand at the limelight of human history to do something at this moment. Imagine what the South African government will do within the African Union. If the South African government speaks, is there any other country in Africa at this moment, despite the difficulties that the ANC as a political party and as a government is going through, is there any other party or government in Africa that can do the same thing that the ANC is doing or is supposed to do, like what they did for the Palestinians? If they could stand up for 56 Palestinians who were killed and recall their ambassador from Israel, Palestine is so far from Africa, why can they not do that to Ambazonia, which is nearby, their cousins, their uncles, their nieces?
What I want to ask specifically is, have you met with either any members of the South African government or members of the governing party?
Yes, I have personally met with the Deputy Speaker. We had a very frank and fruitful discussion, and I am extremely grateful. I'm delighted for that. I met with him. We met for almost an hour, and it was a very frank discussion. We have also met with the chairperson of the chairperson of the ANC Portfolio Committee. We've met with him. I've spoken with him, and I also want to thank him, Comrade Masango, for the wonderful job he's doing. But my greatest surprise is that of the Secretary General. I expected him as the Secretary General of the ANC, the most powerful, the oldest political party in Africa, because we know how the ANC started, alongside SACP. To do something, I expect him to stand up for the principles in which the ANC was created.
Now, tell me, over and above the solidarity that you're seeking with political parties because of a shared history against fighting colonialism and, of course, for the right of self-determination, have you met, for example, with Ms. Lindiwe Sisulu, any of the directors general? Have you met with the police in this instance where a person has been kidnapped? And what has been the response, the official response of government? I'm now talking about the South African state institutions, not the governing party or the tripartite alliance.
The government has not responded yet, and it is not surprising to me, because it seems as if when any African country comes out of its dilemma and becomes a member of the then Organization of African Unity and then the AU, they begin to forget where they came from. It looks as if from the moment the South African government, the previous governments, joined the African Union, they immediately forgot about their past. And it is so difficult for them to react to situations that they are supposed to react positively and timely.
Okay, now we've spoken a lot about what you expect of both the African National Congress and the government, but let's focus on what is happening in your home country. Tell us what the situation is there, and also tell us why you have a particular name for the country. Are you arguing for splitting Cameroon into Francophone and Anglophone Cameroon because of its histories and because some people chose to be part of Nigeria and others chose to stay in Cameroon? Are you deciding to have a separatist struggle because you are not being recognized, your languages are not being taught? Take us back to Cameroon and explain the dynamics of what is going on there and your political involvement. What are your political demands in Cameroon itself?
Thank you very much. The first thing I want fellow South Africans and the people in Southern Africa, all those who listen to your network to understand is that we are not splitting anything. Cameroon was never one. These are two separate countries that came together. The first thing I want the people to know is that La République du Cameroun, French Cameroon, that gained independence on the 1st of January 1960, had nothing to do with the territory of the former British Southern Cameroons. Likewise, as Nigeria gained independence on the 1st of October 1960, Nigeria, La République gained independence 9 months after Nigeria gained independence, while the Southern Cameroons, which is sandwiched between the two independent countries, was not yet independent, but has self-governing status. But when it was the time for us to gain independence, a number of factors compelled the United Kingdom, the United Nations, and Gaullist France to refuse the people of the former British Southern Cameroons to have, in quotes, independence. We were asked to vote on a UN-organized plebiscite on Saturday, the 11th of February 1961, that do you want independence by joining? I don't know where somebody is going to have independence by joining another person. Do you want independence by joining the Independent Republic of Cameroon? Or do you want independence by joining the Independent Republic, Federal Republic of Nigeria? Our people were put in between the hard rock and the burning furnace. We were never asked the option, do you want independence? And why? A number of reasons. One, there was a bush war for independence that was fought in French Cameroon by a political party they called the UPC, Union de Population du Cameroon. They were communist inclined. They had escaped from that bush war, came into the Southern Cameroon's territory, and the Southern Cameroon's government at that time granted them refugee status as international law demands. So when it was time for independence, France told the United Kingdom that if you allow these people to have independence on their own without either joining the Independent Republic of La République du Cameroon, which is French, or the Independent Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is English speaking, they might create a communist heaven within the realms of West and Central Africa. And you know, at that time, this was the 60s. You know what?
Yeah, we had the Cold War.
Yeah, so we were now a sacrificial lamb because of the Cold War. That was one part. The second part was the United Kingdom thought we were too poor, that we were worse off than the Gambia, that we had nothing. And if we have independence on our own, the certainty was that we become a burden to Her Majesty's treasury. It means the United Kingdom was more interested in protecting the British pounds than protecting the lives of the people of the former British Southern Cameroon.
Now, if you are so critical of the way in which Britain handled your desire for independence, why do you define yourself as Anglophone, as British Cameroon? Why are you not able to unite with Cameroon as Africans? What is it that splits you between Francophone Africa and Anglophone Africa? Why is it that you are unable to come together with other Cameroonian brothers and sisters and decide on what kind of country you have? Why is the reference still colonial if the struggle is meant to be anti-colonial?
No, we are not actually referencing. Unfortunately, you cannot move forward without looking at the past. This is history. I'm not making it up. If people don't know the history, they would think that we are trying to split Cameroon. We are not even seceding because we're never one. You can't even talk of secession. You can talk of separation because we're two people who came together, like a man and a woman who comes together, get married, and at a certain time they said, no, it's not working, we need to split.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to ask why you were never one country and what it is that separates you so fundamentally.
We have a system where we have a student union which they don't have. I was, for example, the first student union president in the first Anglo-Saxon university in that country, where we have a student union president who represents the rights of the students. You can go and sit in the students' senate or the students' council and talk on behalf of your colleagues. But they don't have that. They are not used to that. These are people who have been brought up in a way that you don't question authority. No matter what is being done, you just have to be dumb.
Are you saying that there is no democracy in Cameroon as we understand it?
Democracy has never started in that country. Even when we call for one democracy, you have an octogenarian who has been in power as president for 36 years, and then count the other number of years he's been the power behind the power. From director of cabinet, to secretary general of the presidency, to prime minister of the republic, to president of the republic, all imposed by La République Française, on the people of French Cameroon and later on the people of Cameroon.
And what about, I can understand your fight with the government and I can understand your fight with the elites, but what of the ordinary people of Cameroon? Are you able to have a program of solidarity? Is there a common platform around which you can agree that it's ordinary citizens of both territories that actually need to be empowered, that needs democracy, that needs openness, that needs progress, and that needs freedom?
Good and evil cannot mix together. The people of La République du Cameroon have proven to us time and time again that we do not count. There is no way we can live together with these people. The only reason they are still tolerating us, some of them, is because of our natural resources. Let me assure you, they have been slaughtering our people for more than 2 years now.
What natural resources reside in southern Cameroon?
The oil, the curse of the black gold, which everybody is aware of, comes from our homeland. We supply food. We feed Gabon, we feed Central African Republic, feed even La République du Cameroon, feed part of Equatorial Guinea. Agriculturally, our soil is extremely rich because of the rich soil that comes from Mongo Ndeme, what they call Mount Fako. That is not all. We've got gold in our land. We've got diamond. We've even got natural resources that have not been, at this particular moment, refined. Before I leave you, I'm going to give you a document on the natural resources that are based in our homeland. So the real problem, as Jerry John Rawlings, the former president of Ghana, said, it's not that these people want us to live together. It is that the moment oil was discovered in 1975, the French say, hey, listen, they've just discovered black gold there. We need now to make sure that these people become subhuman. So these guys are not keeping us. Listen, if we had nothing like the Gambia, they would have let us go.
Dr. Akamwe, I'm not disagreeing with you. I am of the firm belief that politics are about sets of interests, and the fact that you have resources is probably the reason why there is conflict. What I'm trying to understand is, what is your political objective? What is it that you want? What is the orientation of your movement? You see the African National Congress as allies, you see the South African Communist Party as allies. How would you describe your outlook in the post-Cold War situation? I am assuming that you don't want to be ruled by Britain or by France. You want self-determination, you want independence. What exactly is the political system that you seek and that you think will bring justice to your people?
In a nutshell, we are seeking total and unconditional independence. Unconditional because in 1961 we were given a conditional independence. Do you want independence by joining? We want total independence. First, we are about 8.5 million people. We are larger than a number of existing countries in the world, including Fiji, the Gambia, and others, even within the continent of Africa. Secondly, we want to be a truly democratic state. We don't want a state with a little d, where people just organize consultative elections, which are like referendum, where at the end it ends with bloodshed. People will slaughter themselves.
Or presidents who are in power for 36 years.
Exactly. Or people slaughter themselves in Kenya after innocent civilians have died. Then the two warring parties come together to make peace. And where now that they were making peace, like in Kenya, what will happen to all of those who have died when they would have made that peace long time ago and avoid that type of a situation? So we are looking, we're trying to create a truly democratic society. Now, what do we expect from the rest of the world? We know that it is difficult at this particular moment in the world. The world keeps saying that they want to bring the world closer. But you can't bring people who are of divergent opinions. You need to understand that. Czechoslovakia was how long? Yugoslavia was how long? Now there are little states that are not equal. Like Serbia, population-wise, natural resources-wise, even intellectual-wise, as the people of Ambazonia. So why is anyone telling us that we are not good enough to be a state? Look at South Sudan. Nobody wanted South Sudan to get away from Sudan until these young men and women braved it with the late John Garang and went to the bush, carried up arms and started fighting. It's the same thing with Eritrea. Nobody would have loved Eritrea to split away from or leave mighty Ethiopia, but they have to fight their way. And that is exactly what we are doing. While we are telling the world that there is genocide, we don't think we need to fold our arms. We need to do something. If the Nkutu Wasizwe was never launched in this country, I can assure you that no matter what the world would have done, apartheid will still have been in place.
Final question to you. What is your status at the United Nations? Do you have any observer status? Does the United Nations recognize you as a republic or as a territory that has the right to self-determination?
The United Nations is a home of interest. France has veto power. The United Kingdom is ashamed for what they did to us and for what they have done to the continent of Africa, just like what France have done to French Africa. The United States, on the other hand, is playing the game of supporting its allies who are members of NATO, while China is more interested in coming in and taking a different method in looting African resources. The Russians are aloof, they are watching from the other end. So which United Nations are we going to count on? They have banded themselves like a club of bandits, just like the African Union. What we are saying is that we must accept our right to total and unconditional independence before expecting any international body to come to play to do something. Otherwise, someone will not be 36 years in power, rig an election, and then you still want him to, he's still going to sit in power. When the United States condemned the rigging of elections in Cameroon, of recent, what did they do? Francis Cook was there in 1992, they rigged the elections. They knew the consequences. The next day, they were the same one giving letter of accreditation to the same Bia who rigged elections. Let them stop all this hypocrisy around the world. Unfortunately, no one has the right to take another one's life. But as Nkutu Wasizwe taught us, and as the SPLA and the EPLF has taught us, the only way you can make the world to get up from slumber, I'm sorry, is to pick up arms and start fighting and slaughtering one another. That is unfortunate, but that is where they have put us now to try to protect our own people, our octogenarians, our physically challenged, and even the unborn. Our kids are not able to go to school for more than 2 years. Do we like it? No. Because the rest of the world is dormant, is docile. They are waiting for another Clinton moment when he will come and apologize that, oh, we took our eyes off the ball in Rwanda. No, they didn't. They were scared of what happened in Mogadishu. So they didn't want to commit US forces to stop the genocide. This is the time to do something. Kofi Annan failed. Boutros Ghali failed. And all other UN Secretary Generals have failed because they are doing the bidding of the member of the Security Council that imposed them upon the rest of the world. We can no longer sit quiet and allow our entire generation to be extinct. We are compelled to fight to the last man to free ourselves. And that is why I am in South Africa. Like as I said before, because in Southern Africa, from the MPLA to the ANC to the SACP to SWAPO, if you look within the Southern African region, even ZANU and ZAPO, you will know the cause of liberation. This is the heaven of it in Africa, just like you have it in Latin America. And if Southern Africa does not rise up as a people and live up to that responsibility, they will be helping to perpetrate a genocide in Ambazonia, and I can tell you they will be held responsible one way or the other for knowing what to do. They did nothing.
All right, that is where we leave it. Thank you so very much. That was, of course, Dr. Ebenezer Akangwa. He is the leader of the Southern Cameroon Youth League and also the Commander-in-Chief of the Southern Cameroonian Defense Force, speaking to us, of course, about the plight of the people of that country and their right to fight for self-determination. And, of course, he's saying that at the heart of the conflict is, of course, the fight over natural resources, including oil and gold. And they are essentially going around the world and trying to convince various organizations, particularly former liberation movements who've been involved in struggles for independence, to come to their aid.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
After Mo created his online dating profile, he was expecting to find his princess. Instead,
hello.
He found a queen. Some things don't compare. Some things do. Like hippo.co.za that instant